I'm Nadia.
And I'm Connie.
And this is
Wonder Womb!
This is episode 5, and we have a special guest with us, Sarah Hauch. Sarah and Connie are going to talk about the benefits of spiritual healing when it comes to physical ailments.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, Sarah!
Okay, so we are with our amazing guide and healer, Sarah Hauch, joining us from Winnipeg. And this episode is really magical and special, and it's going to kind of hopefully dive into a little bit of a teaser, other ways of healing in terms of spirituality and magic and women healing other women. And Connie and Sarah are just going to share how they first met, how their paths crossed, and what those first couple of healings were like for Connie before. So like, Connie, how did you even begin to think about this type of healing?
What happened was, from what I remember, hey Sarah, she owned Temple 23, and it was like a health and wellness center, and there was an art event that was happening.
Okay.
And I just remember feeling like, oh, gee, I should really look behind, like, what's going on. And then I looked behind me, and there was, like, it was Sarah. And at the time, she had, like, her head was, like, shaved. She's, like, covered in tattoos. She's sitting there, like, looking like a badass. And I was like, I'm gonna go talk to her.
Okay, you're drawn to her. You're like...
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know who she is. What's she doing here? Like, I would be like, hi, I'm Connie. Classic. Do you remember that, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I met Sarah. And even in that initial conversation, Sarah was like, so, like, what are you creating? How's life? And I just remember just being like, it's all a mess.
Yeah.
And just, like, starting to, like, just share from that space. And then Sarah started sharing about a life activation. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's so, like... It's so broad, it felt like, and I was like, I don't know how to make my brain get it.
Yeah.
And then, so I said, like, no to it.
Okay.
At that time, it was, like, January.
Okay. And body-wise, what, like, state were you in terms of your healing journey? Do you remember? Like, before a life activation?
Yeah, I remember I was still, like, maybe I was no, I don't know, I wasn't drinking then. I was already, like, transitioning out.
Okay.
And then, but I just remember being really angry.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I was still eating, like, meat, and, like, my diet was still, like, what it used to be. And, yeah, I had, like, acne, and, yeah, I don't think I was in the best... I remember just feeling very angry at that time. Yeah.
And then you started coming to meditations a lot.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, why don't you come to Monday meditations? The max meditation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what was meditation like for you?
It was 1 hour, I remember. And I remember it being like, what am I doing here? Because there's so many thoughts. I'm like, I might as well just be like, I could do this anywhere. I'm like, why am I here doing this? I can't focus at all. Yeah. But it was nice to be in the space and just at least have Sarah, like, there just guiding it. I was like, okay, cool. So I won't get lost by myself.
I think the community aspect of Temple 23 was a huge part of a lot of people's healing, actually. Just being around people that were supportive, and I think community and women togetherness is a huge part of our healing.
Totally. Okay, so Sarah, who were you during this time? What was Temple 23, at least when it was in Toronto?
Yes, Temple 23 Toronto was... it was at the time the biggest spiritual healing center in downtown Toronto. And it was because of the amazing Christine Vanderplas, who I met and told me that she was moving into this big new space. And I remember almost jumping over a table to say, I have to move in with you. I had just met her. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I knew my intuition drew me to this space. And she took me to see it. And it was this enormous warehouse space that we converted into a healing center. Before then it was a rave space and, all like late night club space. And we converted it into this beautiful healing center that was also an event space for spiritual events in Toronto. Yeah. And so you came because you went to Narissa's event.
Yes.
At 23.
Yeah.
Wow. Small world.
Mm-hmm.
So then, Sarah, for you, like, how did you use this space? Or maybe let's rewind even more. What type of healer are you? Like, tell us more. Like, introduce yourself.
Who are you, Sarah?
Thank you so much. Well, so my training is with the Modern Mystery School and the lineage of King Solomon. I think that our healing ability is really innate within all of us. And so I think each person has this unique gift of healing. And the training of the Mystery School has given me tools as a healer for sure. But it has really helped me to remove the masks of who I thought I was so that I could be the person that I truly am. So yes, I'm a Modern Mystery School guide and healer, and I travel all across Canada with my business. I have a light center here in Winnipeg, and I still travel to Toronto very often. But as a healer, I think, I'm kind of this like, I'm just me. I'm me. I'm me.
And yeah, Temple 23 in Toronto was an amazing space. Like, I definitely got introduced to meditation first as well. So you're going for meditations. Sarah asks you to go for a light activation. Your gut react, I guess your protective energy was like, no. But then, Sarah, I guess, what is a light activation?
So, life activation. We are all looking to know ourselves and know our purpose. Some people maybe are more aware of that or not. All people just want to be happy. And people are trying every single day to do their very best to make choices to build a life that they love and that their family loves. And so I did my master's degree in physiology. And so we all have DNA. And DNA is a unique code that makes the physical body look the way it does. Why my skin color is this color, why my hair is like this, and why yours is like yours. So it's a specific code that makes the physical body. And people identify with their body a lot, but this is not who we are. The physical body does not create emotions or thoughts or, that comes from us. And so the old saying, as above, so below, and your spirit has a code as well that makes you uniquely you. So your spiritual DNA makes up your qualities. While some people have more warrior energy, while other people have more that intelligence ray, or other people have that maternal squishy feeling. Like, this is who we are as spiritual beings. Now, we are always connected to this part of ourselves. And yet we as humans have this unique ability to actually turn away from the light, turn away from natural progression. A sunflower doesn't have a bad day one day and then just stop flowering, or flower in a weird way. Only humans do that with our thoughts. And so a life activation fuses the physical and spiritual DNA together so that our spiritual potential wakes up in the physical body. Now, because everything in the universe vibrates, every single thing gives off a vibration. Well, if you think about it like this, when your higher self or spirit starts coming through every cell in your very body, well, then every cell starts to give off a new vibration. This vibration hits your magnetic body and completely changes what you draw to you and what you start repelling. You essentially leave a life activation in this new frequency, one that's more authentic to who you actually are, and it gives you the supportive energy to start building the life that you truly want, not one that your parents told for you, not one that the program told for you, or that you thought it should be, but one that really is your purpose. So that's the first step. That's the life activation.
And everyone has a different experience after receiving one. I've received one. I remember being like, I don't know if this is working, but slowly seeing how my decision making was changing over time, and I was listening more to my inner voice. For you, what, like, okay, so when you finally, actually, what made you change your mind to receive it?
Right. So Sarah was like, it was January or February. She's like, do you want to get a life activation? I was like, no. She's like, okay, fine, come to the meditation. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you asked again in like the summer. You're like, hey, Connie, like, do you want to do a life activation? I'm like, no, it's too expensive. That was my whole thing around like lack stuff too. Was like, I've never invested in myself in that way. I'm like, what am I even investing in? So that's what was there. And then on my birthday in October that year, like I had just like I got ghosted a lot by guys.
Okay.
So I just got ghosted again like on my birthday, and I just remember being like, it's not them, it's me. Like, for sure, I'm like, something's going on. So then Sarah, because she's so psychic, she messaged, she's like, hey, are you ready for your life activation now?
Oh,
and
are you serious?
I was like, yes! So then I came in like a week later.
So when you finally received a light activation, what was that experience like for you, I guess, in that moment and also afterwards, the days following?
Yeah. So with Sarah just did her healing thing. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There's like feathers and crystals, you know, singing. Yeah, like my eyes are closed. I'm like, what's going on?
You're standing up, you're sitting down.
Yeah. And I'm like, I remember just being like, I think I'm tired. Like, and then I went back home and I just like slept. And then I was also in between jobs. So I was like nannying and then serving as a waitress, but like really committed to acting, but not sure how to be an actor. So I was just like in that space. And I just remember just like sleeping for like 10 days straight, pretty much. And I just called in sick to work, and I was like, I can't come in. I need to like take care of myself. And then I called Sarah at one point, and I was like, Sarah, is there something wrong with me? Like, there's something wrong with me. Like, I feel so heavy, and I was like, I think I just started crying, too, because I hadn't cried in years.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, there's something going on. So I was, like, crying. I was like, there's something wrong with me. And then Sarah had a great analogy. She was like, okay, imagine you have a cup, and there's, like, concentrated juice at the bottom, right? Or maybe you use, like, garbage juice or something. There's, like, garbage at the bottom. And then you're like, now you're pouring clean water in it. What's going to happen if you keep pouring the water in? And I was like, oh, yeah, all the stuff has to come up to the surface before it overflows, and then it becomes clean and pure. So I was like, oh, yeah, it's my garbage juice. I was like, okay.
100% with certainty say, I did not call it garbage juice.
And it was something, and it was like concentrated orange juice.
Okay,
I know, I don't want to like make you look bad, but for some reason I'm thinking
you
garbage
made a garbage
juice. I made a garbage juice, like like green sewage juice or something. Anyway, but that really helped, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be okay. And then about 3 weeks later, because at one point, because I was like, this is dark. Like, I feel pretty lost. And then 3 weeks after the life activation, it was just like, like the switch was on, and I was like, oh, I can see all the things that I gotta do now to clean it up. Yeah, I was like, oh, this friendship doesn't work. This doesn't work. I'm like, what do I do about my community? Like, who I'm actually surrounding myself with? I was like, oh, I did that. I was like, huh. It's really got the gears going, like in my brain of like, oh, I created that.
Oh.
That kind of thing. And I was like, I don't get to be a victim anymore. So it's like a lot of cleaning up. Yeah.
Wow. What's that part of, like, what's that about, Sarah? Where, like, I guess people have different reactions, but following life activation, I guess what's happening for us?
Such a good question. Because I honestly do not know what's going to happen after a life activation. I can with 100% certainty say that 6 months from now, when you look back, you will be totally different.
Yeah.
But imagine you're at home and something fell behind the stove. So you're like, oh, I guess I have to pull the stove out, right? Because it's made a mess. So then people are going to pull out the stove. Now, people are going to react to that experience differently. Some people are going to pull out the stove and see all the mess under the stove and just be so grossed out and just not deal with it. Some people are going to look at the mess and then just pretend it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Some people, they're going to look at the mess and then go, oh my God, look at the mess under the stove. What do you think it looks like under the fridge? Oh my God, what do you think it's like under the sink? And go into a spiral. And some people are just going to put the stove back. And then some people are going to just clean up the stove and there's going to be no issue. There's no right or wrong experience with how someone deals with the light. When we talk about enlightenment, and I've thought about this for a really long time, the more that someone is enlightened, the more the light is fully on in their life, meaning that they can see all the places where they have blocks, toxic patterns, and that's not all stuff that you want turned on right away. That's tough to look at. We're talking deep core wounds and things like we have to address that little by little by little. And so when there's a life activation, it starts to turn that light on. And there is a purging and release process that happens. And we do become aware. We become aware of our greatness, our strengths. We become aware of like, oh, all these things I have in my life, these are part of my purpose. And then we become aware to the things that maybe we have emotional attachments to. Maybe there's a codependency in a romantic relationship that you realize is just really not working. Well, when you live in the dark, not that you're an evil person, but you kind of like, you're ignorant to it. Well, when you become aware of it, you can't ignore it anymore. And sometimes that's hard. But then you can start to heal. Then you start to actually clean up your life. I was in a physically abusive relationship when I got a life activation. And it was a really hard pill to swallow that I created that experience. But when I really got down to it and realized that I felt I was worthless, well, then it made sense that I attracted someone to me that treated me like I was, because we are the creators of our reality. And when I realized that I can change it. And I started rebuilding my life.
Yeah, for both of you. Okay, so we talked about life activation and meditation. This is about healing our room. So sometimes when we're thinking about physical ailments, we think, I need medication or this cream or this diet, like, physical. I guess for both of you, why is it important to address, I guess, the spiritual, what we can't touch, if it's something that hurts us physically? Like, what's the connection? Like, is there a connection? And if there is, like why? Like, because some people, like, they're like, I don't get it. Like, why would I want to meditate if it's like I have migraines? People don't connect it, and but it is connected. How do you explain that connection, if you can?
For me, it's like working with Sarah and just like everything I've done, it's just working with my intuition.
Okay.
So having like alone time, quiet time, that's like the time when I'm like, I'm creating.
Okay.
Yeah. Like how I see things here on the 3D is never what's so. And we can get lost in it because I'm like, I'm seeing that this, and this. I'm like, but what am I actually creating for myself? Like the ideas and like learning how to pull those ideas down and then having it manifest into physical reality is what we all do as human beings. And I think when it comes down to the body, there's a story around, for me at least, that like the body, like we give it away to doctors or something.
Yeah.
Like the doctor will know. Right? Like there's something there that's weird. That's something that's like very disempowering. It's like, ask the doctor, they'll know.
Yeah.
But that's the part where I'm like, well, and I remember because like I brought that to you, Sarah, because I was like, okay, I'm committed to healing my PCOS, and then we started Ensophic Ray healings, and the Ensophic Ray, it was specifically designed to heal physical ailments.
Okay.
Because I'd gone to you to do like all sorts of like aura healings and other things like fine tuning, but something that was like actually I was like, okay, this is here.
Yeah.
And I remember after our first healing, because it was like a 3-step process. You said and I could feel like when your hand was on top of my ovaries, like it was like hurting, like there was like light going there.
Wow.
And then you said, you were like, I'm not to alarm you or anything, but this part of your body is like dead. Like there's no energy there. There's no light. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
So yeah. So with that, it really got me thinking, got like the gears going too. I'm like, why is that area of my life or that part of my body so like dark and heavy? Like there's no joy, there's no flow there, there's no movement, right? So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Connie. I'm going to answer this as best as I can with the understanding that I'm always progressing and changing. And maybe 2 years from now, I'm going to think totally differently. Okay, I know that everything is energy. Just from, well, you can study quantum physics, but just from my own personal life, like my knowing of the physical world is beyond this physical. Now, there's an old Hermetic saying that says all is mind. And that everything that exists in the mind is holographically created outside of the mind. So if you are this beautiful child, you're this baby, you're brand new, your mind is in infinite potential. And you don't need to have traumatic childhoods to have stuff. Because if you're this infinite being, and the world isn't made up of infinite possibilities. Well, if your mom comes home and maybe maybe she's a nurse and good grief, like nurses work so hard, and she comes home and she's tired. And maybe she says, oh, life is hard or work is hard. Or now as an infinite being, you're like, what do you mean? And that one little time she said it doesn't mean anything. But by watching your mom every day come home exhausted, tired, that creates a little gap in the mind where the light was. And that gets filled with this, you can call it a lie, you can call it an illusion, you could call it whatever you want, but this limitedness now exists in the mind. And that gets projected out into your reality. So meaning that, like, does that make sense? So that's why people consistently have the same pattern that they're dealing with over and over and over, because something exists in here. So the physical body is the last place where all of these things are played out. Now, it's a really cool, like, I love doctors. My mom's a doctor, my sister's a doctor, my grandfather's a doctor. Like when I went through labor, they're like, I was dying, literally dying. And they're like, we can give you fentanyl and all this stuff. And I was, no, I would never want to take that. 10 hours into it, I'm like pressing the nurse button, like,
yeah,
bitch, you give me that fentanyl. I need that now.
Yeah.
Right? And it healed so much of this story that medicine was bad, because I had a bad experience as a child, but like, no, medicine's not bad. It's just that they have a scope of practice, just like therapists have a scope of practice. But doctors are now, they're kind of expected to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
They know how this works. But energy absolutely impacts us. We know that. We know we walk into like a room and you can feel that it's awkward.
Yeah.
Right? When you're having when you have to deal with a conflicting conversation, you feel it in your body some kind of way. Every thought you have, every emotion you have it is felt here. And we are energy beings first. And so in Sophic Ray, now this is the misconception with Reiki, because people will say to me, what's the difference between Reiki and Sophic Reiki? Well, there's no difference. However, when Usui, the Japanese man, brought Reiki to the people, he only brought a portion of the teachings. Because in 1910, there's no way that he could talk about galactic beings and Kabbalah. And he was such a miracle worker at the time that he was being revered as a guru. And he was this humble man, a monk who did not want that. And so he only handed down a portion of the teachings. Mm-hmm. So Reiki is now synonymous with hands-on healing or physical body healing, but that's not actually what Reiki is. Reiki, the Ensophic Ray, it's a path of enlightenment. When Master Usui went to find the Ensophic Ray, he was looking for enlightenment. And because the light flows through him, he can create miracles. So why the Ensophic Ray can heal? It blows my mind, ladies, like reversing 20 years of back pain, shoulder pain, digestive pain, migraines, jaw problems, eye problems, broken bones. I don't even understand that one. Liver problems, kidney problems, arthritis pain almost completely gone, endometriosis, PCOS in 3 sessions, never to have come back or never to ever come back years later. To, if it does come back, way less, is because we are flowing the light to the part of the body that is a receptacle to some kind of energetic issue. So if like, let's say you have someone who is riddled with anxiety about what their parents think of them, that is going to store somewhere. You don't have thoughts, you don't have stress, worry, or anger. Stress, worry, and anger are not just experienced and then released. It's not, it's, you store it here. And so when we're talking about the womb, and again, I am no expert, but in my years as a healer and all the stories I hear from women, there is some issue that woman has with their femininity, of their divine feminine energy, whether it's they're scared to be a mother, they're repressing the fact that they are attracted to women, maybe they feel a tremendous pressure as being a feminine, maybe they are so engaged in their masculine, the doing, the producing, the trying to prove their worth, that they've all but completely forgotten the divine feminine that finds its space in the womb. And honest to goodness, there is no judgment in that, because I deal with it too. I deal with it too. I didn't have a period until I was 27 years old. That is major repression of my feminine power. Yeah. Like, I obviously got it when I was 15, but it went away when I was like 19 and never to come back for like 8 years.
Whoa.
Mamma mia.
Yeah. So the Ensophic ray is the first ray of creation that when you flow it into the body, it creates brand new cells in the body. It basically takes the person, that part of their body, back to a brand new infant, brand new. And that's why miraculous healing happens.
Okay, so thank you for talking about Ensophic ray. That's really powerful stuff. And Connie, do you want to share, now that you've received some of those healings and working with your guy like Sarah and other folks, like how's your body transformed?
Yeah. So after the 3 sessions, each session of the Ensophic ray was different. And I remember the first one, but I could always feel like there was something penetrating my womb space, and it would hurt. And I was like, no, this is good. It's like, let the light in, like, let the light in. And I think it was like after the second or second session, Sarah, like, one of the questions was like, why do you have to have PCOS?
Sarah asked you that.
Yeah, like that was like a question that came in from like the angels or something. Like, why do you have that? And I was like, yeah, why am I hanging on to this? Like, if I'm creating this, why am I creating PCOS? I was like, oh, does it give me attention? Like, that's like, it's easy for me to give my power away. What would happen if I was actually healthy? I've also never been like that too, right? So I would know who I am.
Whoa.
So I was like, oh, interesting. So I was letting go of that. It's all thought stuff here. Like, look what you were saying. Like, all is mind. And it's true. It's what I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we would do healings. You said every night go to sleep and visualize, like, talk to your womb space and visualize it being healthy. Yeah. So I would do that. And then that would shift things too with like what I wanted to eat. And then of course I started doing Vipassana. Like, I think the same day I signed up for life activation with you, I also signed up for Vipassana as well. Okay. So it was like the year of healing for me. I was just like ready to do everything. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to heal myself. But yeah, after the 3rd session of Ensophic ray, I think I had periods. That's what happened. I did have periods, which was great. Wow. Yeah.
It's more than great. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's true. In one of our earlier episodes, we meet one of Connie's, like, part of her, I call it like a healing team, Dr. Laddick, who's awesome. but male energy, which is very important, but like he's helped you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what did it mean to have like Sarah, like the female energy in your life, like working on you and supporting you?
Yeah, it was great to have a team. Like Sarah's always been there. Anytime I'm like having like identity crisis, I'm like, Sarah, I have to talk. And then like if I can't get a hold of her, like even within 2 hours, she'll call me like, hey, what's wrong? I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's okay.
It passed.
Yeah. So that's who Sarah is like the guide. But yeah, it was really great to have, and I would share with Dr. Laddick about you too. So I liked having that team of like everyone knew what was going on.
But having like a masculine energy force healing you and helping you, that's pretty badass.
It is. And who Dr. Laddick is to me is like he's actually very balanced. He is very much in his feminine. Because he's talking about like nature and do yoga, do your healings, like go meditate, go do that. That's all like feminine stuff. So just to go off of that with Unsophic Ray, it was like me getting back into my feminine energy. And what does that look like? What does that mean? And then I got to discover that for myself. It's like playing, it's singing, it's taking baths, it's like being in nothing, right? Being in silence, being vulnerable and being creative and not forcing myself to do something or like taking action. Because we already live in a society where it's always like action.
It's true.
But where is it coming from? Right? Where's the inspiration to do the action, right? Is like the journey from the womb.
Yes.
So the female master teachers in our mystery school, which we call divinas, they always are spouting great wisdom. And one of the things they've said is that women are innately worthy. They wake up in the morning and they are worthy. Men, it's their joy to produce. Like, let's hear that. It's their joy to produce. Men love that. That is the masculine. Feminine, though, there is no proving of worth. There's no producing. We just are. And listen, I don't have the answers. I don't. I'm constantly learning and listening to the wisdom of other women. But when you had this one entire generation that liberated themselves into the workplace, which is great, but then also had absolutely women entered the workplace en masse, but it wasn't like companies were saying, wow, we're so excited all the women are here. Let's create jobs that support them and their energy. That's not what happened. And so then we had I had a mother who she had to repress those feminine traits because she worked 16 hours a day. And so our womb space is our creation center. And we are creating every minute of every day, but are we creating because we're trying to show the world that we're worthy? Look at my Instagram, look at my face, look at my body, look what I've done. And there's no shame in that. That's all great, but that's not what makes you worthy.
Yes. What
makes you worthy is the very fact that you woke up this morning. What I've learned as a mother about feminine energy is that, like, we look at Wonder Woman, the movie Wonder Woman, right? Yeah. And she's out there and she's defending the galaxy by fighting and doing stuff. And isn't that great, right? Yeah. Female empowerment, sure. However, I don't think that's what feminine energy is. When I was on a trip with my son and my mom was looking after him, and I'm working 16, 17 hours a day, healing, teaching, holding space for people. I come home, my son has croup. It's now 2 a.m. and I'm rocking my baby to sleep. And I know that, like, my mom is also worried. And if I get worried, she's going to get worried. If I get worried, my son's going to start freaking out. So I remember having zero sleep and waking up the next morning and then holding space for people all day for 16 hours. Feminine strength is this unending well of the ability to hold space. Mm-hmm. It's the ability to hold space and to be a totally like that, whereas men are a rock in that way that we know they're going to protect us, right? They're going to get it done. Women are this force of, we are going to hold everything together.
Yeah.
So that, that's what I've learned about the womb space. And women, I really am excited that we start holding, you didn't ask me this question, but I'm talking anyway, that we start using our voice to express when we have issues with other women, to start creating safe environments and building intimacy with each other, because intimacy comes from conflict. And we've been taught that conflict equals mean girl equal they hate us, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like our wombs are all going to heal when we can feel safe in the presence of other women. Because what happens when you feel stressed and anxious? Your pelvic floor instantly does this. You feel your pelvic floor just tightening up. And that does not create a happy womb space. So when you're with other women who are also good at holding space, and we feel safe that we can speak our truth and we're not passive aggressive and we share, and I know I'm still learning all about this, that's when my womb feels the happiest.
Yay!
Sarah?
Yeah.
Connie, oh my goodness, so much knowledge was dropped. This was like so good. But yeah, you touched upon like the very thing that Connie's been saying almost in every episode, in terms of like her struggle to find her voice, but then finding her voice and using it for good to be a leader in the world. And yeah, I totally support and agree with your what you're suggesting for women to do to kind of connect to their feminine, is like connecting to her voice and using it is so needed.
And my osteopath, she could tell way more than I could, but there's a physiological connection between this and the pelvic floor. That's intimately connected. I mean, you look at the vulva and they're exactly the same. We have to speak to each other.
What?
No, that's so great, because I know instantly when something's off with me, my throat tightens. And I was feeling that all last week, and I was like,
something's wrong.
Something's going. It's not that it's wrong. I'm like, but something's there. I'm like, something is there for me to address and to say, or just something to transform. But yeah, it's definitely connected.
Wow.
So. Woo!
Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it, and you mean so much to us on our own healing journeys and being there for us. And even though you're learning along the way, you were still an amazing role model and teacher for us. So
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Nadia and Connie. Thank you for having on your show, Connie. It's been wonderful.
Of course. And I acknowledge you, Sarah, for coming on the show and being all that you are, and being so worthy and badass in the world, and for healing me, and also continually guiding me throughout my journey as well.
It's been an honor. I love watching you shine.
Thank you. It's been so great. I actually am like, oh my gosh, it's been like 6 years of this.
Incredible.
Yeah. I'm like, you're not going nowhere.
Nowhere.
Stuck with me.
So thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
That was an amazing episode and journey with both Connie and Sarah. And some of the highlights for me was definitely remembering as women that we are all worthy. The theme of voice, again, Connie, you brought it up, and then Sarah mentioned it too, the value in listening to and using our voices for sure. And the light.
Yeah.
Help women shine.
And also supporting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of this episode and all our other episodes, please give us a big thumbs up, like and subscribe. You could follow us on Spotify and iTunes. And share this with other women.
Yeah. 2 women in your life, at least. One. Okay. Bye.